Welcome to Cubfidential. Hopefully you got your beer in hand or your orange juice. Maybe you don't drink. Hopefully not any coffee unless you work night shift. You know what I mean? But if it's about an hour, maybe 30 minutes before you go to work, you know, tune in and get some nice, fresh live Cubs coverage. I am the convicted felon, Denzel Snipes, and we got a jam-packed show for you. We're going to be covering the latest series that just happened. Of course, a nice, fresh and hot Cub time machine, and the all gracious, all beautiful Cubfrontation. It's all here for you. But before we get started, we should bring in our host. This is the Brooklyn Bad Boy. I think he might have been growing a beard. Every time this dude starts to grow a beard, he want to shave the sides and be petty. It's okay. For the end of the year, I'm going to talk him into it. But it's JB Ellis. Come on in.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. How's it been going with you?
Doing well. Another week here on Confidential. We got some great prizes to give away. Sent out a mini bat to Christopher Cole last week. I think I got the name right. I'm trying to remember the names off the top of my head. Late at night. But you still got a chance to win some prizes. Yes, Christopher Cole should have received his mini bat today. We got some more stuff from the Iowa Cubs. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter. Let us know, and maybe we'll select you so you get some another great prize. We still have the autograph baseball that's available. But let's get started right away. Let's not waste time. We got a lot of good stuff going on tonight. Let's bring in Jenna. Let's talk Cubs-Marlins. Hey,
What
Jen.
up, Mr. Ellis? How are you doing?
Doing well. How you doing tonight?
I am well, thank you. And
So,
you guys must have had a great time. I know I'm a week late, but y'all look like y'all are having a great time in Iowa. I'm so glad.
oh, it was nice. It was a great experience. Got to see some phenomenal things. Very gracious host out there in Des Moines. Uh, I enjoyed it. Can't wait to go back next year. Bring them some more confidential. Maybe we get to see a full game. The rain will hold off next year. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad y'all had that opportunity and that experience. It was fun to be a part of it virtually. So thank you for that.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit about the Cubs-Marlins series. Let's start with that tonight.
So the Cubs ended up winning the series 3-1 or 2-1. I apologize. And I think what happened was the Cubs got really sick of losing because they had just come off of a 4-game when they started winning on Tuesday. They'd come off of a 4-game losing streak. So, and now we're on then they ended this series, including the first 2 Pirates games. Sorry for whoever I'm taking that from, with a 5-game win streak, or another 4-game win streak. But on Monday, we had we lost that game, 10-3. And I know this is Jordan's big thing about how many Cubs we left on base. But this time around, it was actually tied. So we only left 8 Cubs on base, as did the Marlins. But I don't know what was going on. I don't know why they were doing so much to just not do much at all on that night. But then they got really sick of losing, and the D kind of stepped it up during the second game, and we had Sampson and Alzolay. I apologize for mispronouncing his name. Like knocking it out of the park. So we won that game 2-1. So they were the only 2 that scored. But that's okay because a win's a win, right? Even if it's an ugly win, W is still a W.
Exactly.
And then when we also won 4-3 on during the next game, and that night we tied with the Marlins. Jordan will be happy with these stats. Also, we only left 5 players on base this time, and we had our players of the game were Thompson, and Thompson was the only Cub with a top performer. The actual other 2 were Marlins, but this isn't a Marlins show, so we won't talk about them. But we had it was just a good, fun game. I mean, it was tight, and they really stepped it up. They wanted to do their best, and they wanted to go out on a win, close it out and win, because they didn't have that previously. So I think overall it was a really good game, or series. Um, and the probability was that they were going to win like 82%. The Marlins were going to win 82% going into the game. So I love that stats can be wrong. And this is why professional ball owners should take note that analytics do not solve everything. Just saying.
So, I mean, going down to Miami, both these teams are struggling. You know, they're both
Yeah.
going to finish towards the bottom of their division, not making the playoffs, but they both have really great young talent. Tell me a little bit about the similarities between these two teams.
Well, like you said, there's young talent. They're both in rebuild year right now. They are finding their footing. Both have issues in the front office right now that we assume are going on. And the players are doing their best to overcome that. So that's how I see that similarity playing out.
Now, with this, we're almost at the end of the year. The Cubs have 10 games left approximately, maybe one or two more. What can we look forward to with this season ending and get ready for next season from this team?
I think if we can end the season on a win streak, I'm someone who really thinks if you can win it on the positive streak and winning it out, you're going to be good. And I think
Who's the next coach?
Russ, sorry, my husband was putting in his perspective as well. I don't know if you heard him. He was saying as long as we have a new coach.
Well, I mean, I can't disagree with him. I mean, that's 100% right with that. I've been saying that for the last 3+ months. So
right, I think we all have been. Rust needs to go back down. 2 weeks ago, I was accidentally calling him Rust. I think you would have appreciated that, JB.
Yeah. Right now, he would like to change his name, I'm sure, but
I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, yes. Sorry. But I feel like they're both going to end up doing well. We're still in that rebuild. I hate that this rebuild has taken on as long as it has been, but it is what it is. And hopefully the Rickles family will listen to us. Hopefully all the owners of the Marlins will listen to their fan base too and get it together.
Now, with all the young guys, who do you look forward to stepping up next year out of the young guys and being the go-to guy to kind of be the next big player on the Cubs?
I feel bad for the Cubs.
I really think it's going to be Suzuki. I think it's going to be Suzuki who's going to really step up and really bring the team together and just have a blast. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, what's your overall thoughts on what he's done so far this year?
I think he's been solid overall. Excuse me, please shut up.
I'm not going to shut up.
I think he's been pretty solid overall. He had to come back from, I think, an injury and an ailment. But overall, he's been solid. I feel like he kind of, even though there's a language barrier, he helped unify the locker room when it needed to be unified. But I also think that Contreras not being traded midseason helped out a lot with that as well.
Any free agents you're thinking about?
Not really. Sorry, I haven't thought that far in advance.
No worries. I definitely can understand. Got to get through the rest of the season to see where we head. Who's your thoughts on who the next manager of the team should be? Who, if you had to pick?
Bring back Joe.
I don't know if you heard my husband or not. He said bring back Joe. I was actually thinking about that also, but Maddox really likes to come to a team that's really almost at that level to win the World Series. He's not really a grower.
Actually, screw that. I actually like the catcher.
I don't know. I said last week, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Girardi come back. He was not my favorite manager, but I do like him. I think he is better than Ross is. Is he the answer for the Cubs? I don't know. But, I definitely could see him stepping in and being a big part of it and helping them rebuild.
Rossi.
Well, what if, here's a thought, and we were just talking about this backstage. What if Ross brought in an assistant to help him?
Kind of like what they did in football in Denver.
Yeah. Sorry, I just saw
know.
Jordan's reaction.
I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like you get the job, and there's nothing wrong with having an assistant. But if you didn't need one before, when you got the job, to me, after you had the job and now you're bringing in someone to help you, to me, it's like a step back. But
yeah, true.
So you have to accept back to the forward.
I don't think he's the answer to the team's needs. You know, I'd like to see them go in a direction that can help them. And I just think that it's time to move on. I mean, he's a fan favorite when he was a player.
Yes.
But, you know, now
it is time to move on.
No, the ownership's a problem, not him.
So,
well,
gotcha.
No, I was just going to say, Alan just made a point. He said that the ownership's the problem, not him. Do you think the ownership has a lot to do with the issues that he's been having as a coach or GM?
I think part of it's the ownership, that they're not willing to spend money to keep guys they should have kept, because Bryant and Rizzo should still be Cubs.
Yes.
Baez, I thought, was too much of a free swinger to be one of my favorite players, but I can make a case for keeping him as well. But I think the middle infield, they have a lot of good young guys, so I understood getting rid of Baez. But Bryant and Rizzo, they really haven't replaced. You know, Schwindel wasn't the answer when he was playing, and he was the guy that they were looking to at that point to be the next first baseman. Wisdom swings at everything that's thrown.
Yeah.
You know, the guy doesn't know how to take a walk. So, you know, I don't know where they figure that they're going to go in the future with those guys. You know, Brian and Rizzo have a few years left that they can play, so I would have kept them. But that's just my opinion. That comes down to money. So I think that's the issue with the ownership and upper management. Now, as far as, you know, Ross, I think he doesn't know how to handle the bullpen or a lineup. We've said this from the beginning of the year. Guys are all over the place. You know, your leadoff hitter is a different guy 3 nights a week. You know, you can't do that. Guys need to know what they're going to do. That's important. And, you know, they have no stability. And that's where I think Ross is wrong. Even with the bullpen, you know, I think he does the same thing with that. So that's where I think that they need to either, you know, be a lot more consistent, or at the same time, if they're not able to do that, move on and find somebody that can do a better job.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I think it's kind of time to consider moving on, to be honest with you. But yeah, he'll always be a Cubs. He'll always be a fan favorite.
I mean, if you're trying to win, keep him.
No, I definitely hear you. Where can people find you, Jen?
Y'all can find me on Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. with 3 Chicks in a Pod. We're also launching another female sports show called Chicks and Salsa. We are, I know it's a fun name, right? I'm like, I can eat chips and salsa while we're doing Chicks and Salsa. And then we can also on the Pundits Pundit on Wednesday nights at 8:00. Obviously, Cubfidential Tuesday nights at 11. Thursday nights, Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel, followed by Inside the Pigskin with Scott Motormouth Morgan Roth. And then you can also find me on, I'm a producer on Basket Bros and during the NBA season on the NBA Carousel.
Well, Jen, it was a lot of fun having you tonight.
Thanks, JB.
Can't wait till next week. Hopefully we got some more wins in the column, and we'll talk then. You have a great night, Jen.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so that was Jen. Coming up next, we're going to go to the guy whose football coach needs an assistant coach to babysit him. If you don't know who that is by now, it's the one and only Jordan Long. Jordan, welcome.
Thanks, JB, for the intro. Yes, I'm not exactly thrilled about that decision, but you know what? I worked last week because Hackett might have been doing some other dumb decisions this week, but that's obviously for a different show.
Yes, it definitely is. We'll definitely get to that. So I got to bring this up. I don't think this is going to go well over with the Chicago audience that's watching, but he is right that Jordan did laugh. So our very own Will Vogel says we should bring in Bartman as manager. How do you feel about that?
I wouldn't want him because what managerial experience does he have? Plus, he hasn't been invited back to the stadium since that event happened in 2003. So I think the fans would riot if he came to be the manager of the Cubs. But hey, you couldn't do any worse than Ross at this point. I mean, he didn't have any managerial experience, just a catcher. Why not throw in a fan who doesn't, hasn't been a manager or just watches it? Why not? I mean, I can manage, you can manage. But at that point, I don't think the Cubs would really like what I would be doing with the team.
I am convinced that I can do better than Ross. I mean, but I'm an old school baseball guy. I like bunts. I like stealing. I like the sacrifice fly, small ball. I mean, I get that. The old saying back with McGuire and Sosa, chicks dig the long ball. You know what? I dig winning. And when you move runners along and you get them in scoring position and you put pressure on the defense, you win games. So that's my opinion on it.
I completely agree with you. I mean, we look at games, like the Cubs lost 6-0. We'll get to that in a moment, but it was like they were hitting long ball and we weren't doing anything. In a close game, like a 3-2 or 2-1 game, I like the bunt strategy. Where's that gone in baseball? It's gone away because why? Like you just said, fans dig the long ball, and I don't understand why that is. I mean, I like a home run, but I also like you were saying, stealing a bag, bunting. Let's get runners into scoring position, score them. We're not seeing that much in baseball.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's a problem, But to the good news, the Cubs are on a bit of a win streak, 5 out of 7, playing good baseball to end the year. Every time I say we got to get rid of Ross, I think it's like that point where it's finally going to happen. They come and do this. They win 5 out of 7. They win a bunch in a row. Granted, we're talking about the Marlins and the Pirates who they had this last week. But, what did you take out of the Pittsburgh series?
Well, you look at the first game. I mean, Thursday we won 3-2. We scored 2 runs in the top of the second when Morel doubled, scoring Haas Morello and Bodie. Pirates cut it to 2-1 in the bottom of the third and stayed that way until the 7th when Haas Morello scored Revis. This is a game we could have lost earlier in the year, but you know what? Ross trusted his bullpen. We won 3-2. And honestly, we didn't really have that many bullpen players to go through. Wozniacki started going 6 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, all earned, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and 1 home run given up. And that was Hughes and Lightyear Jr. that actually slowed them down. The one thing that really bothered me, though, and we've talked about this, runners in scoring position, 2 for 7 for the Cubs. If that percentage would have been higher, you're looking at maybe a 5 to 6-2 game, but it's 3-2. I'll take it. I mean, we need wins at this point of the season. Like you and Jen were saying, I'd like wins at the end of the year to give us momentum going to 2023.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand and agree. And, what's your thoughts on the offseason? What do you see happening with this team, come a week and a half from now, 2 weeks?
What they really need to do is get some veterans. I've heard Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is going to cost too much. I don't think the Yankees are going to let him go. We've heard Ohtani. I wouldn't want Ohtani, but I think I heard Carlos Correa as shortstop. That can make a lot of sense. We do need some veteran leader. What we have talked about, leadership. We need some veterans out there to show, hey, we can play baseball. And we want to build something. Well, how do you do that? You've got to get some veteran leadership. And I think that starts with going out and getting a Carlos Correa. You also have to figure out, well, is Kyle Hendricks going to stay? If he doesn't, then go out and trade him for a young arm. I mean, we got to figure out, what are we really doing? I know we're trying not to be a rebuild, but we are rebuilding. How do you do that? Get some veterans. It's a simple answer, to be honest. but will they do that? Who knows? As for the manager, I'd like to see Ross gone, but that's all on Jed Hoyer.
I mean, who do you want to replace him if he goes? What if you could choose anybody? Who's your ideal candidate to manage this young team?
There's two names that come to mind. That is Don Mattingly, who just got fired, or he's going to finish up the year with the Marlins. But he's a player's manager, which is a good thing. He knows how to play baseball. He did it he played for the Yankees and he was a manager for the Dodgers. Didn't really work in Miami, but that wasn't necessarily his fault because they were in a huge rebuild mode. Only got to the playoffs once with him. Or another guy, and I know he has ties to this organization, Joe Girardi. That's actually the guy I wanted before Ross. Obviously, we didn't go that route. And Joe Girardi has said this is his dream job. Why not give him a chance? The only downside with Joe Girardi is he's played for the organization. Do we really want to go that route again with David Ross, like we did with David Ross?
You know, my thoughts on Girardi, simple. He played baseball in New York, in Chicago, on some of the biggest stages. He managed the Yankees, had some success there. Went to Philadelphia, it didn't work out so well. But, I think he may be a good answer. Is he the best candidate? No. But I can understand hiring him, but I think that would be a good fit because of that. Mattingly's an interesting choice. Does he want to come to Chicago? He managed the Dodgers, went to Florida. Does he want to take some time off? I don't know what his thought process is right now. It's kind of the same situation where he had in Miami, where the owners really aren't spending. They have a lot of young talent. Do you want to come to this team and, do the same thing we're doing in Florida? I don't know. That's a good question. But two good choices. I don't know who else is out there that they would be interested in, but I do like those two choices. It'd be interesting to see. Anybody on the free agent market you'd want to see them pick up?
I would like Carlos Correa as a shortstop. I mean, we need a veteran shortstop. I'd like him. I've seen a lot of other guys out there, but honestly, if we're going to try to bring some veterans, go after like a Carlos Correa. I don't want an Ohtani just because he's a pitcher / designated hitter. We don't need that. But I think Carlos Correa can make perfect sense. The question is, does he want to come to Chicago? I've seen a lot of rumors of that. Oh, the Cubs might be interested in Carlos Correa. It makes sense in my mind. But would he want to be part of a rebuild? I think you got to just talk to him and say, hey, you know what? We're going to offer you this. Do you want it? And he can say yes or no and then move on and figure out the other veteran.
Well, I definitely can understand what you're saying. So let's talk about this Cubs for you this week. We got our man Patrick Wisdom. So what Patrick do this week?
He was actually on fire this week. I mean, granted, he didn't have a lot of plate appearances as a lot of other Cubs. He had 15, but in those appearances, just 3 hits. But think about what the hits were. They were home runs. I know we talked about we like the bunts and all that, but he had 3 home runs. He scored 5 runs and collected 6 RBIs, had 1 walk and 1 stolen base.
Yeah, I mean, huge hits. 3 big hits, but what do you think Wisdom needs to do to just be more solid and, to make himself a better player going into next year?
A lot of it is he's more of a power hitter, and I like power hitters, but you also need to be a little more patient at the plate. Drive the ball to the gap or even, hit a line drive to, short center field. You don't need to go for the home run. I think he needs to work on where his hot spots really are and just drive it into the ball. Drive the ball in, that way. He's relying too much on his power, and you can't really do that. You have to find a way to, get the singles and doubles and try to, play small ball. So I think going into next year and in the offseason, work on your hitting, figure out where your hot spots are that aren't necessarily home runs, but where you can drive the ball.
Definitely. What about, being more patient at the plate? Is that something that, how do you teach a major league hitter to be more patient?
Honestly, how I would do it is tell them to. There's a lot of times where our hitters are going after the first pitch. You got to at least see one or two pitches and then try to swing at the third. You can't be swinging at the first or second pitch because, of course, if it's low in the zone or outside the zone, or even you foul it, you're already down 0-2. At least if you let the two pitches go, they could be balls, two balls, they could be 1-1, but you have to work the count. Somehow work the count. Just be more patient. Don't be a free swinger. And that's the problem we've seen all year is I don't know if the hitting coach is really telling these guys, go after these pitches, but you have to be more patient. I even saw it. I know this was in May, but I saw too many pitches that we were trying to hit that were in the dirt in Arizona. You can't do that. You got to be more patient. So try to work on your patience at the plate.
Yeah, I'm looking at, like what I said before with the bunting and, stealing pressure. Same thing with taking pitches. When you take pitches, you're making the pitcher throw strikes. And if they can't throw strikes, it puts more pressure on them. You get a 2-0 count, you're going to see a good pitch to hit. When you see a good pitch to hit, the odds of you hitting just, go up exponentially. So, I can't understand why, that's something that's not done or taken care of. That's not taught throughout the organization.
It really doesn't make sense. But at your point, if you're trying to, be more patient, like you were talking about, guess what happens with your example? The pitch count goes higher. What happens? He tires out. He's going to throw a ball right in the middle of the zone for you to, crack a home run. So, yeah, I definitely think we need to start working the count more, especially going into next year.
I agree completely. Jordan, where can people find you? And, what are you most excited about in 3 weeks when there's no Cubfidential anymore?
Well, when there's no Cubfidential, I'll actually get to watch postseason baseball. It'll be exciting. I know your Yankees are in it. I mean, I love watching postseason baseball. You get to see why the Cubs aren't necessarily in the playoffs, and it's just good baseball. As for where you can find me on Twitter at SportsScoop1. You can also find me here on Cubfidential. I am also on the NFL Carousel on Thursday nights, hosted by Eric Wilson, representing the Denver Broncos. On Monday during the NBA season, I'm on Megan Price's NBA Carousel. I also have my own show, Under Review, that I will post on Fridays on my blog, and it'll be on the network on Saturdays. And I also write a blog Mondays through Thursdays with podcasts and Fridays at sports-scoop.com.
All right, Jordan, we'll see you in a little bit for the Cubfrontation, but thank you as always. Excellent coverage. Maybe we'll get you an assistant host that can make sure your microphone's in the right spot, and you know how to turn it on, because that's the new thing where everyone's getting an assistant.
I know, right? I could use one too.
All right, man. I'll talk to you in a little bit. All right, so next, the one, the only, Mr. Up himself. You remember way back when a show when it was hot outside, there was a guy called the Pundit's Pundit who told us he was Mr. Up. Welcome, Mr. Up.
Something along those lines. And by the way, what you got to do, here's one of the things you got to do if you get Jordan an assistant. They have to be able to type out copious amounts of notes. And
right.
copious amounts, and be able to get the carpal tunnel syndrome from it.
So how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty well. Looking, we're getting to the end of the year, so we'll see what's going on,
Well, it wasn't the year any of us hoped for. I'm going to start with this. The record that the Cubs have right now, looking at it, we are a total of, let's see, the Cubs at the moment are 68-86, not including anything today. What's your thoughts on what the record is compared to where you thought they are now?
I couldn't tell. I would have thought they'd be at least 500. But the biggest issue out of the whole thing is just been the same thing that we talked about at the beginning of the year. I said it over and over and over and over. I wanted to be it's not just our World Series. We got our World Series. That's now been 6 years. We got it. But it's like at the same time, you got to be able to be able to build a team that is in it over and over and over and over. Like, guess who? The Cardinals. Over and over and over and over. And the Cubs don't build that. In fact, after the World Series, the Cubs just gradually got worse until they're at where they are right now. And it's one of those we should be. But the thing is, after 2020, this was Ricketts panicking over losing that much money, which a lot of multi-billionaires do actually. They get scared. They get scared of losing money, and this is what happened. And this was just as unnecessary of a rebuild as Garpax with the Bulls.
You know, I mean, but you look at it, it's really hard to repeat in sports to be a champion multi-years in a row. It happens, but
Sure.
it's not as easy as it looks.
Well, it doesn't have to be champion multi-years in a row. Just be around. And they weren't even. I mean, I'm saying other than a couple of one other time you get to the NLCS, just gradually go down. No, I'm just like I said. No one other than just maybe Twitter dweebs will say be champion every single year. We're saying just be around. Just be in the picture a little bit. Even if you can't win it all, then you win it all when your time comes. But the thing is, when you see somebody that is 5 hours from you, just dominated 32 out of 40 seasons with over 500 records, like 17 division titles. I mean, that's just jealousy. You know, it's unfair and it's jealousy, and that's just an organization that's always there. And see, and you know, they didn't win it every year. They've got 2 titles and 3 World Series. You know what I'm saying? In that time,
Right.
4 World Series. So that's not saying they won it all. That just means they're around, and that when it comes, it comes.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying. You know, I mean, even 500 though, you'd still wouldn't be in the wild card race. So, you know, I don't know if that makes much of a difference. I think they're playing somewhere close to where I expected this year. Maybe 4 or 5 more wins, but you know, they're in that range. What's your thoughts on what they need to improve on most during the offseason?
Oh, well, for one thing, one big thing, they've got to go get players. They've got to get. I mean, if Ricketts is trying to save money, Ricketts to be able to get players, to be able to get some free agents, I would love it. But they've got to go. They got to get some veterans now. And another thing, Ross, I really hope he's not back, because it's not. I don't like to see fired, but he wasn't ready. Like I said over and over, go to the minor leagues first. He just wasn't ready.
No one ever likes to see anyone fired, but we called for Rossi's job on this program for months on end. You know, and it's not that we're celebrating the idea of getting somebody fired. We don't ever want to see somebody fired. Everyone's got, you know, family, and they're trying to earn money. So it's not that we're, you know, in professional sports, though, it comes with the territory. So, you know, but it's not that we're looking to celebrate someone getting fired, you know. But at the same time, he's just not the right guy for the job. We've said that since May. You know, he has an unorthodox way of doing things.
It's just younger Madden. It's just all it is. It's just younger Madden.
Basically.
He just sat next to Madden and trying to make. It's like, okay, you have Morrell. Okay, once he started struggling, instead of bringing him down to 3rd or 4th or like his power, brings him to 9th. You're about to choke yourself. You're about to choke yourself.
No, the earbud was flying. I don't even know how it did that.
But the thing is, it's like he brings him down to 9th. It's like these unorthodox. The biggest thing, the difference is between Madden and Ross is Madden had enough years of making mistakes to be able to, again, he's been through the World Series on other teams too. He made his mistakes, and he also made regular everyday strategies, pitching strategies, everything like that, so he could go unorthodox. But Ross is somebody just learned off Madden. It's like a 9-year-old trying to be like dad, trying to get into his shoes. And it's like he needed to go into the minors or be a third base coach, first base. He needed to do all that, and he didn't.
Yeah, it's a shame because, great guy, really well liked. It's not
Well,
a
he's the World
personal
Series
thing.
hero. He's a true World
And,
Series hero.
no one's saying we dislike him personally. Just not the right guy for the job.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. So let's get to why you're here tonight, because you're not here to get rid of Ross. Tell us about the Homer in the Gloamin.
Yes, Gabby Hartnett. If you heard the name Gabby Hartnett now, you would be thinking it's some independent league, the first girl in the independent league to hit a ground out to first base, and the ESPN would be all over it. But no. But back in that time, it was Charles Leo Hartnett called him Gabby as a play on words because he was so shy. Now the biggest thing about it was he was in the league. He was in there 21 years. 21 years. And in baseball, he was a catcher, one of the greatest hitting catchers ever. He was here. This is telling you about what that league was at one time. He once led the league in strikeouts with 77. That led the league. So
Wow.
that sounds like 2 months now, but
2 weeks.
Yeah, no kidding. But he hit 354 and until Mike Piazza took it at 362. He had all those years as the highest batting average for a catcher ever. So, so that tells you what Mike Piazza, how awesome he was. He could hit 362 as a catcher.
Yeah, right?
But the Homer in the Gloamin, let me give this little history lesson. The Cubs were a game and a half back. They end up winning one of the games, the first half of a doubleheader to make it half a game. The second half of the doubleheader gets to the ninth inning, and there are no lights back in the day, none. So it's a ninth inning and it's about to go. And Homer in the Gloamin means it was getting dark. If they would not have made it whatsoever, if they wouldn't have gotten through, it would have been tied and they would have to start all over again. And this was with the pennant on the line. 2 outs, 0-2 pitch, Gabby Hartnett hits a home run. And that was remember, they were half game behind. So guess what? Now now they are in the lead and they help with the pennant. So that is his little deal in 1938. And so
wow.
This is the thing now. You just see all these differences, the whole day difference now. You there? Hello?
I'm here with you. Go ahead.
I got you.
Keep going.
No, you went silent for a second. But no, these are the differences with the games now and stuff like that. It's like you might get that home run, but it's more odds on that you don't hit it. That's a strikeout. It's like, even this is the thing. There was Homer in the Gloamin, but think about this for 1 second. Someone like Gabby Hartnett could have had he could have had a button in the Gloamin. He could have had a single, a seeing eye single. There was a billion different ways that they hit in that time. He just happened to get full wood on it. It's like, but either way, he could have won it that way. He could have won anything that way. And that's the way the baseball was in that time. It's like they weren't going for it all. He just happened to get there. He just had to get wood on it.
It's pretty wild to think, that way back in 1938, before there were lights, before World War II, there's this great moment in Cubs history that I'm sure so many fans had no idea, about, pretty interesting to learn.
And then the Cubs don't get, the Wrigley Field doesn't get lights till 8/88, and then it looked like God was punishing him because that got rained out.
Yes.
So then 8/9/88 was the official first lights game.
Yes, it was. So where can everybody find you? And then you're going to stick around because we're doing Cubfrontation right after this.
Well, first off, you're going to see, you see me here right now on Tuesday nights on Cubfrontation during the season, the Cubfrontation, the Confidential. Wednesday nights, doubleheader, the pundits pundit with everybody. And then I'm on with Scott Morgan Roth, Scott the Motor City Madmouth, with the Sports Exchange. Thursday nights, I am with take a little break from sports with TJ Sanson. Not this week, but most of the weeks, TJ Sanson with Yin and Yang. And then some Saturday nights, I am on the Gauntlet. Sunday nights, some Saturday nights, it just depends. Sunday nights is Basket Bros, and Monday nights during the season is the Mega Prices NBA Carousel. So I'm busy.
Wow, it's not like you do any shows or anything.
No.
So let's get to the Cubfrontation. So tonight, our topic, we're going to talk a little playoffs. So we're going to leave away from the Cubs right now. NL East champion, the Atlanta Braves or the New York Metropolitans, and why. You got 2 minutes. As soon as our great producer, the convicted felon, takes me off the screen, you could start. Keep in mind, the winner will be chosen by not only the convicted felon, so impress him tonight.
Yeah, I impress him with my charming good looks and my laughter. Anyway, it's going to be Atlanta. It's guaranteed Atlanta. I mean, the Mets, they've already blown the lead that they've had in the first place. Atlanta's hitting their stride right now. They're getting hot for the playoffs. They're getting their players. Yes, Spencer Strider has a bit of an IL right now. But, I mean, there's no proof that he's going to turn into Jacob deGrom, who I'm waiting to be able to be shut down during the playoffs and be finished. I'm shocked that he made it past August. I was wrong there. But they just got the better hitters. They don't have a lull going on right now. They have none of that. They haven't blown any leads. In fact, they're making the comeback. They are the hot team right now. The Mets, they're having their own papers and their own online people doubting them, which they start to do, that they're starting to blow it. They're starting to do the 1969 only in reverse when the Cubs blew it to the Mets. Now the Mets are about to blow it with the Braves. And so it is going to be the Braves as the National League East champions and a possibility of getting back to the World Series, although that's a long shot to me. There's a couple others that I think are better.
All right, Mr. Ubbs, pro Braves. I don't know if I see it that way, but I'm going to bring the guy in, and his assistant, if he's there, Jordan Long. Got 2 minutes. Why the Mets are going to win the NL East. Your time starts now.
Well, you look at it, they're currently tied with the Braves with 6 games to go after 6 games left after tonight. Both of these teams will be in the playoffs no matter what. I'd much rather have the Mets because they've got Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, 2 of the best pitchers in the game. I get the Braves are the defending champs. Both teams actually play the same teams, the Marlins, each other, and the Nationals. The Mets have 2 of their series at home, the Marlins for 2 and the Nationals for 3. The only one that they don't is the Braves. What would you rather have, playing at home or on the road? You look at it, and the Braves, for their final 5 games, for the final out of the 6 games, they play on the road. So final 5 of 6 on the road. The only series at home is against the New York Mets. Which would you rather have there? I'd much rather be the Mets, who have the home field advantage. I look at the Mets, whose home record is 50-27. They play better at home. The Braves' road record is 45-32, and they have won 7 more games at home. Again, where would you rather play? I'd much rather be in the position of the Mets because you have more games at home. So they will win the division because of the fact that they have more home games. Would you rather have them on the road? No, you'd rather have them at home. With that said, though, it tells me with the fact that you're playing at home and you've played better at home than the Braves have played on the road, you're going to win the division. For me, though, you have to go with the Mets just because of that. I don't see the Mets going down on a wild card spot. They're going to prove everybody wrong.
All right, so that was Jordan Long. So we got Jacob Christner with his minute rebuttal starting now.
Yeah, they've got their games at home. Yeah, they're better at home. They also just lost 6-4 to the Marlins. This is the time. This is reminding me of 2004 Cubs when they blew their wild card chance. It's like you had gimme games in the last weekend. We lost 6 of 7, and this is what happens to teams when they completely and utterly blow it and Atlanta starts to get hot, and you lose to the Marlins, who are just miserable. They're just miserable. They're awful. And basically, and this is not just the Marlins. This is the Marlins team that's got all of their September call-ups, and 8 of them are probably in the starting lineup. So, no. The Mets right now are heading for a deep dive, and it's about over. The Atlanta Braves are going to win the NL East.
All right, Mr. Ubbs. Jordan, you got a minute to say why he's wrong before we go to the judge.
You're still playing at home. I think you're miscommunicating on how much home field advantage means to the Mets. They play better at home. 50-27. Sure, they lost to the Marlins. Yes, you're going to have more games at home. But when you go on the road against the Braves, those are 2 must-have games, or at least 3. They're playing a 2 out of a 3-game set. You have to win 2 of those 3 to win. And I think they have just enough, especially if Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom are on their game. Then you go at home and you play the Nationals. I think that'll be enough for them to get into the playoffs. Regardless, both teams are going to be in the playoffs, but I like the Mets at home rather than the Braves. That's the position I would be in. And if you're at home, you get to sleep in your bed more comfortably and go to your home ballpark. Mets will get the job done to win the National East Division.
All right, so let's bring up the one and only convicted felon. Who you got in this week's win?
Oh man, I chose this topic because it was one of the title races that's in the National League right now, and it's pretty much anybody's ball game. Both of them did clinch a playoff berth, so whoever wins the division is going to be a wild card. The Mets did have a lead on Atlanta Braves. Atlanta Braves did start to get hot, so point to Jacob on that one. But I will say that I really like Jordan's point about how the majority of the rest of the way they're at home. And I gotta roll with the home team on this one. Now, that's not sitting here saying that Atlanta won't get hot in the playoffs and make it back. They very well could get in there and do some damage, and they may knock out the Dodgers again. And after all, they did win the World Series. The closing game was in the Astros building. But the Mets. I just kind of feel like it's their time this year. So I'm gonna give it to Jordan this week. Once again, another tight battle, between the two. It was really awesome. I know he kind of cheated and he had his assistant helping him back there, but that's okay. We'll just ignore that and act like that never happened. So, Jordan, you got it this week, man.
So, that's going to wrap us here a little early tonight. We're at about 49 minutes. But we've got everything we had to say in. We're kind of wrapping up the year. There's not much more on this team. Next week when we talk, we're gonna mix in a little NL-AL playoffs and wrap up the season before we go into our off-season schedule, which we'll announce when we're back on next week. But definitely make sure you're following us at Cubfidential on Twitter. Send a DM. You never know. You may be one of the people that wins one of those prizes from the Iowa Cubs. It was a pleasure seeing everyone tonight. We'll see you next Tuesday, 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central. Make sure you're watching those games. Let us know what your thoughts are. But JB Ellis, I'm out from the convicted felon, Mr. Ubbs, Jordan Long, and Jed. We'll see you next week.